international organizations. On behalf of the President of Mexico, Claudia.
For Argentina, it is crucial to preserve the integrity of this process by acknowledging when consensus has not been achieved, rather than proceeding with a document that does not accurately reflect our collective will. Moreover, we're deeply concerned with how certain geopolitical issues are framed in the document. Specifically, it addresses the long-standing Middle East conflict in a manner that fails to capture its full complexity. By focusing on a single dimension of a specific territory, it overlooks the broader regional context, the international recognition of different entities, and the structural causes of the dispute. In this regard, I wish to recall the recent adoption of UN Security Council Resolution 2803 on November 17th, which emphasizes the international community's support for a just and lasting peace in the Middle East, while calling for a comprehensive, fair process to address all aspects of the conflict. In closing, Argentina, although cannot endorse the declaration based on the aforementioned discrepancies, remains fully committed to the spirit of cooperation that has defined the G20 since its inception. We're convinced that only through genuine dialogue, respect for consensus, and adherence to the principles of the United Nations Charter and international law can this forum continue to keep working constructively with all members and partners, with a shared aim on strengthening global stability, promoting sustained growth, and advancing development in a manner that is inclusive, balanced, and respectful of our diversity. Thank you, Chair.
Misgivings about certain parts of the declaration as it was adopted. And similarly, we have given Argentina, it is a declaration that has been adopted by all of us here present. And so we want to thank Argentina for expressing the views that they have expressed, and many of the views are really views that are common or commonly held by many in terms of the adherence to rule of law and supporting the resolutions of the United Nations.
Mounting sovereign debt of several G7 countries pushes them to the verge of fiscal collapse. Artificially inflated financial bubbles may trigger a knockdown to the global economy. If we look at the international financial institutions, they are currently deviating from development finance to military expenditures. Thus, financing goes back to the Western economies, and in many cases through the corruption schemes in Ukraine. The World Bank, for example, has provided Ukraine with more aid in 3 years than to all African countries combined.
There have been many excellent interventions here today about rules on trade, rules on the way in which we engage with each other. My biggest worry right now is that we are not seeing enough multilateralism in 3 key conflicts that have been raging around the world. 1, Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine. 2, the situation in Gaza. And 3, the situation in Sudan. So I hope that we lean towards multilateralism. And let me say, coming from a small country, what I believe the West should do in this. I think the West should understand that the multilateral institutions that were created after World War II and that were upheld after the Cold War, the power structure of them is right now unfair. It needs to be changed. We need to distribute power in a world that exists today, not the world that existed in 1945. That is the best way for us to drive multilateralism and get it back on track. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Stubb. You were just so precise, Alexandra. That's the Nordic spirit, I take it.
Our long-standing commitment to international law, multilateralism, and active engagement in international fora motivates us to advocate for an inclusive international system that leaves no one behind. And in that context, there is an urgent need to end war and conflict. War and conflict damages and undermines economy and economic growth. And in that context, there must be renewed efforts to end the illegal invasion of Ukraine by Russia and the war that has ensued, and also the horrors of Gaza, and and the appalling situation in Sudan. We must work very hard to end these wars, in addition to the many other conflicts.
Inclusive and sustainable development is impossible without peace. We must stand by the principles of the UN Charter, everyone, everywhere, at all times, be it in Ukraine or in Palestine. This means defending sovereignty, independence, and territorial integrity, and ensuring strict compliance with international humanitarian law. Without peace, without respect for multilateral rules, our efforts on trade, development, and inequality won't succeed. Spain remains committed to working with all of you to ensure that the G20 strengthens cooperation, protects the most vulnerable, and leaves no one behind. And I thank you.
Thank you, my good friend, President Sanchez. I now call upon Her Excellency Dr. Nedumbu Nandi-Ndaitwah, the President of the Republic of Namibia.
And resilient. Jamaica's story is one of social partnership and sacrifice.
Fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.